Maybe somebody has told a lie about you. Does that make you feel good or bad? So there's something starts in here and it's very uncomfortable. You don't feel good at all. And it's the person who did something on you and yet you feel bad, don't you, sometimes? And what happens if somebody took something of yours and broke it? Does that make you feel bad as well? So it grows and grows. What if somebody broke a promise to you? They were going to come and play with you, and then they didn't. In fact, they went off and played with somebody else instead. How would that make you feel? You would start to feel angry, frustrated, annoyed. All of those feelings grow and grow and grow, and they're not very nice at all. And you know, the more things people do in you, the worse you feel until eventually you explode. You can't cope with it anymore, and it's really not good for you at all. You know, we've been learning about the story of Joseph and his brothers, and we know that Joseph's brothers did a lot of things. And we know that things happened to Joseph, and he must have felt awful too. His brothers threw him in a pit. He ended up as a slave. He ended up in prison. But Joseph was different. Joseph was able to forgive. He was able to let it all out. We don't know if he found it easy to forgive. Maybe he was in prison for all of those 2 years while he learned to forgive. But he let it all out. And as well as forgiving, it was better for him. You see, this God can't use. Not very easily. This isn't really any use at all. This, while it used to be full of things that needed to be forgiven, Joseph was able to forgive, and God was able to use him. Full of good things. Forgiveness, love, peace. He was able to have a happy time. Forgiveness. Now, just pick up my bit. Now, last week we ended the story of Jacob and his brothers, where Simeon was held in prison, while the rest of his brothers went back home with all the food and grain that they had been able to buy in Egypt. Remember, there was a famine, and so they had no food where they came from, so they had to go to Egypt to buy this food. And they went back home with the food, but Simeon was left in prison. But we asked 3 questions while I wasn't here, but I hope Gordon did it right. You can tell me if he didn't. So we said, but were they all in big trouble? Because they went home with all their grain and all their food, but it looked like they hadn't paid for it, because all the silver and all the coins were still in their sacks. Were they in big trouble? Would Jacob let Benjamin go? Would Jacob actually let Benjamin go back to Egypt? Remember, the governor, Joseph, although they didn't know it was Joseph, had said, that's the only way that I will believe you if you bring your youngest brother with you. Would Jacob let him go? And even if they did go, would Pharaoh arrest them as soon as they got there, because he probably thought that they'd stolen all the grain and hadn't paid for it? Now this week we're going to find out what happens to Joseph's brothers next, and it's all very, very strange. Well, first of all, Jacob refused to let Benjamin go. He said, no way, Benjamin is not going with you. I've already lost my beautiful son Joseph all those years ago. Simeon's held in prison. Benjamin is my youngest son. I'm not going to let him out of my sight. There's no way he's going with you. So they just carried on doing what they do, eating all the food and grains they brought with them from Egypt, until eventually Jacob realized that all the supplies were going down. The food was running out. There still hadn't been a good harvest. It was still famine. And Jacob realized that very soon they were all going to be hungry again. So he called all the brothers together and he said, listen boys, I need you to go back down to Egypt and buy some more of that food. Well, they said, you know we can't go unless we bring Benjamin with us. the governor said, do not come back unless you bring your youngest brother with you. That's the only way I'll be able to believe you, that you've been telling me the truth all this time. And Judah said, you know what, Dad? I'll tell you what, if you let Benjamin come with us, we'll go. I will look after him personally. I will take good care of him, and I'll make sure nothing happens to him. And if anything does happen, I'll take the blame. So eventually, there was nothing Jacob could do, but he agreed. He said, okay, take Benjamin with you, but also take some gifts for the man. Take him some gifts, and take plenty of money with you. Take enough money to pay for more food now, but also to return the silver that was given, or that was in your sacks when you got home the last time. So make sure you take all those things with you. And off they went to Egypt again. Now remember, the first time we heard about those brothers having some silver coins, that was back at the time when they sold Joseph, remember? And that silver, they weren't going to give it to anybody. They stuck it in their pocket and didn't tell anybody. I wonder why they're different this time. So anyway, they got back to Egypt, and there they were again before Joseph. But remember, they still don't know that it was Joseph. They just think this is the governor of Egypt. He's a big, important man, and so they bow down before him. And this is where it all goes a bit strange. Joseph told one of his servants, take these men to my house. We're going to have dinner together. So all the brothers were taken to Joseph's house. And they thought, this is where he's going to punish us. That he's going to take all our belongings, he's going to keep our donkeys, he's going to take all our things, and he's going to make us stay here and be slaves. And they were really, really worried. But the servant said, no, that's not why you're here. You've been invited here for dinner. Very strange. Why would the governor of Egypt invite our family, all these brothers, to dinner? We're just strangers from another country. He doesn't even know us. Why would he do that? Imagine if you're in school someday and your class is, I'm sure this doesn't really happen, but your class is being really naughty, really misbehaving. You're not, but the rest of your class are. And they're being really noisy, misbehaving, and your teacher says, right, I've had enough. I'm sending you all to the principal's office. You would go there and you'd be really terrified, wouldn't you? You'd be thinking, what is he going to do? And we're going to get extra homework. I'm going to get detention. What's it going to be? But then the next thing you know, your teacher comes in and gives you all some lemonade and crisps and sweets and says, right, we're going to have a party. You wouldn't know what was going on, sure you wouldn't. But you'd be too scared to say anything in case changed their mind. Well, that's a bit like how the brothers felt. They thought they were there because they were in trouble. Next thing you know, they're having a great big meal. Their brother, Simeon, who was in prison, he was brought into them, and he joined the meal as well. The servants told them all where to sit, and they sat them exactly in the right order of their age. Reuben was the oldest, and he was first, right down through all of them until they got to Benjamin, the youngest. And they thought, this is also very strange. How do they even know the right order to seat us in? Because they don't know us. They might have been able to guess who the oldest was, and they might have been able to guess who the youngest was. They wouldn't have got it all right in the middle, but yeah, they did. Again, they just thought it was odd, didn't say anything, ate and drank as much as they wanted. It was a great meal. Secretly, Joseph spoke to one of his servants, and he said, these men have come here to buy some more food and grain. I want you to fill their sacks, and I want you to put the silver coins that they have brought to pay for it, I want you to put them back in each man's sack. And he said, you see the youngest one there? I want you to put in his sack my special silver cup. You know the one I always use, my very favourite special one? I want you to put that in the youngest man's sack. Seal them all up, and don't say anything to anybody. And that's what the servant did. So the next morning, the brothers loaded up their donkeys, took all the sacks with them, loaded it all up, and started to head off back home, totally unaware that there was anything but grain in their sacks. So they were heading back home. Everything seemed to have worked out. They were going home with food, with their brother Simeon, and with Benjamin. It had all worked out great. But not long into their journey, Joseph's servant came running, catching up with him, and he shouted, "Why did you do that? How on earth, why would you do such a thing? You stole my master's silver cup, the special one that he likes. You have stolen it." And the brothers were so confused. They going, "We didn't steal anything. We're honest. We even tried to give you back the silver from the last time. We're honest. Honestly, we haven't got anything. We didn't do it." But he was insisting, "You have stolen my master's silver cup." So they began to search all the sacks. They started at the oldest, no cup in there. Moved to the next one, no cup in there. Moved to the next one, no cup in there. All the way down till they got to the youngest, Benjamin. Opened his sack, and there it was, the silver cup. How did it get there? They hadn't a clue. But they were devastated because they had agreed that whoever had the silver cup, if any of them had it, they would go back and be slave to this guy's master. And it was Benjamin. How could this happen? But even worse, how could they go back home and tell their father that Benjamin had been kept as a slave? They couldn't do it. So they all went back to Egypt once more and stood again before Joseph, again still not knowing who he was. And Judah spoke up and he said, "I don't know how to prove we're innocent. I don't understand what's happened. We didn't take the cup, but the evidence is there. The cup was in Benjamin's sack. So we have all come back to be, we'll submit to you, and we will be your servants." Joseph said, "No, only the one who had the silver cup. He will be my servant, and the rest of you are free to go home." Once again, Judah spoke up, and he said, "Sir, you asked me before about our family. You asked me, was our father still alive? And I told you, our father is old, but he's alive and well. He dearly loves Benjamin. He would be devastated. It would kill him if we went back home without Benjamin. Please let me stay here instead, so that Benjamin could go home. I couldn't bear to see the distress it would cause my father if we went home without Benjamin." Now Joseph realised that his brothers had changed. You see, years ago, they didn't care about their dad. In fact, when they sold Joseph, they just said, "Yeah, so Joseph must have been eaten by a wild animal." They didn't really care, didn't think how Jacob would have thought. But this time, they couldn't bear to cause him any more distress. Now Joseph really knew that they had changed. So he said, "It's me, it's Joseph, I'm your brother, the one that you sold all those years ago." Instead of being pleased to see them, the brothers were terrified. Here they were, stood before a very important, powerful man who now turned out to be their brother Joseph that they had been so cruel to all those years ago. Now he was powerful and important. He could have them beaten up, thrown into prison, arrested, killed, anything. Joseph said, "Don't be afraid. Don't be angry with yourselves. It's God. God sent me here to save lives. God sent me here ahead of you. Yes, you sold me to the Ishmaelites and they brought me here to Egypt. But that was all part of God's plan." He said, "Do you remember those dreams that I used to have and you hated me for having them? Well, they've eventually come true because you've come and bowed before me." But he said, "God also allowed you to interpret Pharaoh's dreams. And God gave me a plan so that we could store food during the years of plenty, and so that there would be enough food for all of us during these years of famine. And now God has brought us all together. Go back home and tell Jacob, Joseph, your son Joseph, is alive and well." When Pharaoh heard about Joseph and his brothers, he said, "Yes, bring all your family. Bring them all here. Tell them not even to bother packing anything. They can come here. I will give them land. I will give them everything they need." and there was going to be a great big family reunion. By now, there was brothers and sisters, wives and husbands, uncles, aunties, nieces, nephews, cousins, grandchildren, the lot. A great big family reunion. Now, we have families in our church who don't live in the same country as their families. And you can imagine if they all got together, there'd be some big reunion. And I used to think that people in Northern Ireland could put on a good party, but I'm guessing that doesn't come close to the parties in Africa. Yeah, I think I got that right. So I think there'd be singing and dancing and hugging and kissing and lots of fun, food and laughter. It would be a great time. And that's what happened. A great big family reunion. And at this point, I'd like to be able to say, and they all lived happily ever after. But let's face it, this wasn't children of Israel. Anyway, that's a story for another time. But it has brought us to the end of our story of Joseph and his brothers. So what have we learned? Well, we've learned that God had a plan for Joseph, and God carried out his plan in his time. We learned that Joseph trusted, even though at times he didn't know what was happening, why he'd ended up in prison, why he'd ended up as a slave, he trusted God. And today we've learned that Joseph forgave. He forgave his brothers. It might have been a hard thing for him to do. It's not always easy, but it is God's way to forgive. Forgive that person, and as we saw with the balloons, I've forgiven it helps you as well, because you get rid of all that pain that's inside here too. And we've learned that God protected and rescued his people. And you know, these people that we're talking about, eventually through that family, years later, through their descendants, Jesus was born. So you see, even God's plan for Joseph was just a small part of God's very big plan to save us. And that's the story of Joseph. Now we're going to sing. Probably the last time, no, maybe not the last time, we're going to sing the song which has become part of our Joseph series. My word's getting ready to do that. Next week we're going to have a quiz. We like quizzes, don't we? Yes, you're going to have to read up on the story of Joseph. So, hands up. Is it going to be boys against girls or kids against adults? Kids and adults, okay. Do you want the spaghetti quiz or the balls or what kind of quiz do you want, or something different? Balls. Balls? Okay, throw balls, right, okay, get the right answer, right. So you got to practice then, alright? He's got